It's Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Corey and Mason.
Hello and welcome to Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mason Schmidt, here with my best bud, Corey Knudsen.
Bud Light Lime.
Bud Light Lime. Bud Light Lime. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about recent releases, what's coming up on the horizon, a little bit of physical media roundup, and look at movie news. We're going to try and be a little bit quicker with that. We tend to waste a lot of fucking time, especially, well, at least that's what Corey says in the edit. But the podcast made by film fans for film fans. Corey, how have you been, and what are we drinking today?
Well, Bud Light Lime.
Yeah. Answered that.
That's all I'm going to say this episode. No. We, been alright, man. We got a lot of stuff to get to, so I kind of just want to jump right in. First up is The Running Man. The new 2025 version came out. Not necessarily a remake of the 1987 one with Arnold, just kind of a different adaptation of the book. I was looking forward to this new one. Mm-hmm. I was like, Edgar Wright tackling the subject material could be fun. And I'd never seen the original one, so I know we both went back and watched that one for the first time, and I really dug it. It's a fucking fun 80s movie,
It's
man.
a very good 80s movie. I can't imagine watching it in the 80s and, like, you have to compare it to the rest of, like, the really good Arnold movies, because, like, this isn't, like, S-tier Arnold action films in the 80s, but it's still, like, really fun and really good, and you mentioned it before we started recording, but the hunters in that movie have just the weirdest fucking personalities and characteristics, but I had never seen this until this past week, and it's also directed by the man that played Starsky in the original run of Starsky and Hutch, which is wild. His name is Paul Michael Glaser. He also directed Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal. So I noticed that, and I was like, wow, what a track. But this was a fun movie, and you get a little reunion with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jesse Ventura in this film. So I was like, that's kind of cool. I wish we got maybe a little bit more of Jesse Ventura. But Richard Dawson is also fantastic in this movie as kind of the game show host, the runner of the program. And it's such a fun, cheesy 80s throwback movie to watch.
Yeah, and for those of you who haven't seen either of these movies, the kind of basic synopsis is that it's a future dystopian America, and a man is wrongfully accused, and so that's Arnold Schwarzenegger, Ben Richards in the movie, and he gets put on this game show where you have to fight for your life, and you can basically win $1 million or whatever it is, and if you survive kind of these hunters coming after you, and all these different drones and technology and stuff, and that's essentially the same plot for the new movie too. We'll get into that in a second here. But Arnold is, this is, like you mentioned, not a top tier one. A lot of the one-liners are really, like,
forced.
I don't know, like, it's cheesy and fun in its own way looking at it now.
Yeah.
Where you're like, that's not like a Predator line or a Terminator line. No. Well, some of them are Terminator lines.
Yeah, one is strictly straight from Terminator, and they really pause on it, and it's like, okay.
Like, we're doing that. Okay, great. But I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit. I think there is a little bit more to it than just being a fun 80s movie. It really does, with this, the novel is written by Stephen King, Richard Bachman, whoever you want to fucking say. But I think with both kind of the book and then this Arnold movie, they tap into the dangers of, suppressing art and media. Basically, everything's owned by one corporation. They're running the world in this dystopian future. And it's kind of the, trusting a government that can manipulate and lie to you or doctor footage of, video or whatever it is. And that's how Arnold kind of gets into it with them framing him for something he didn't do.
Yeah.
So I think it actually does have some good things to say about that. I think both versions do. I kind of felt it more in this original one, honestly. So I think that works for it. Like you said, the hunters or the stalkers that go after them, it's like
Wild.
Dynamo and Fireball. Jim Brown plays one of them. It's like, sure. And they're like, the fastest runner in the land or whatever. And it's like, okay.
Sure.
It'd be like if fucking Marshawn Lynch was just...
That would...
I mean, he's been in stuff.
If you want to do another Running Man movie, don't do another adaptation. Remake the actual 80s movie and have Marshawn Lynch in it.
Yeah, play Fireball.
Awesome.
So that was just like a fun little kind of element to it, was these hunters, and I just had a really fun time with it. I always really enjoyed the 80s interpretation of the future.
Yeah.
Kind of like Back to the Future 2 and this movie, where it's like what they thought the future was going to be.
Stupid yellow, full-body leotards that we're wearing as competitors in this game.
This 87 movie takes place in the very distant future of 2017 to 2019. Better times.
Better times
Better
for
times.
us, but for them, clearly not. But it's
Yeah.
they kind of missed the mark if you look back at that year. It's like, wow, this is way off.
Yeah, it's always weird. We're getting to that point now again with like Back to the Future and this where it's like, oh, we're in the future and
Yeah.
we're getting close to Blade Runner 2049.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Like, what other futuristic date in movies can we think of? But 2049, it's like, shit, I'm going to just do a Ryan Gosling and die in the snow in 2049. I'll be 49
Probably.
years old. Might as well just
Yeah.
fucking clock out then. But
Why not? Yeah, I think another thing that this movie kind of speaking to the future element of it is that it kind of predicted a lot of things, whether it's from the book or the movie, but like kind of the reality show craze and like game show craze that really took off. I feel like in the like 90s, kind of early 2000s. And they do a lot of kind of like digital, like deep fake stuff, like face replacement, where I'm like, oh wow, we're seeing that consistently in
Yeah.
movies now. There's even a part too where like somebody comes home and they kind of have an Alexa type thing where they're like, turn on the lights, do all this. So interesting to see what it kind of got right, what it didn't get right. So very enjoyable. I think that, like we mentioned, it's not a top tier one. It doesn't have as many of the iconic lines maybe. And I think my biggest issue with the movie is that the resistance part of this movie feels really strange how it's incorporated. They kind of mention it early before Arnold goes into the game.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, spoiler alert, I guess, for kind of this movie, the resistance is like within the borders of this game, and they just have a secret cage like underground. But I'm like, how did you get
That's so
in
convenient.
there?
Yeah.
I don't understand how you got there and set up a base within this. And then they don't even like what is the actress's name here? Maria Conchita Alonso. She is kind of helping them out. She kind of gets swept up in this, and she has like this code or something that they have to uplink to this thing
Yep,
that they have to do.
really weirdly convoluted because like
Yeah.
the smart one of like Ben Richards' like trio dies, but she was there when he passed and heard the code, and now she's relied on to remember it. And I'm like, I don't fucking remember that either.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you supposed to? And it's just, I remember at a point it does get a little convoluted, and I was like, well, it's convenient that the resistance is also somehow in here, and no one knew about that, but. I think overall, I'm like, it's almost like quality level. It's kind of up there with like Commando for me, which like I don't think Commando is like the best action movie ever, but it's good like cheesy action fun. This one you get more of like the dystopian future aspect, and you get a lot of like weird interpretations of the future, and I think it's so cheesy, and I almost applaud them for how dedicated they are to, you know what, we're gonna have these one-liners that aren't funny, aren't catchy, but we will grind this movie to almost a dead halt so that Arnold can mutter off a one-liner, and then we'll resume action. It's 80s were something special for action movies, and I think that this film pretty well encapsulates like what a person would be like, oh yeah, what's your standard 80s action movie? Well, I like The Running Man. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not a bad thing. It's still really fun. So I'd actually recommend this to people if you haven't seen it, because I wasn't like super excited to watch it. It was more of just like, oh, it's an Arnold movie I haven't seen. Yeah, I'll check it off the list. But it's a pretty fun time. It's a good watch, and it was good preparation for the new one, I think, even though that there's not a lot of kind of overlap really. But it is kind of interesting to see that aspect of the film where like the doctoring footage and like things that you could say exist within both movies, but also it's like it's kind of relevant today where we got like AI videos and shit. Like I hate watching shit on Instagram Reels and you see like a Sora and I'm like, oh my god, fucking get out of here! Like just it's crazy that that's kind of something that we actually deal with today. So I had a good time with this movie.
I agree. I think it was a lot of fun. I do agree, though. I wish there was more Jesse Ventura. It feels like we're leading up to something with him, and then it's like they give us like a final thing, but it's kind of a Dr. Digital thing they do, and I'm like, oh, I wanted him and Arnold to face off.
Big fight, yeah. Give me a big climactic, like that is the end all be all. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed this movie, though. I'm very happy that we both got to check it out this week, leading up to the new one. Like I mentioned, directed by Edgar Wright, who has been very consistent throughout his whole career. I've
never missed.
Yeah, really loved all of his movies. My personal favorite is The World's End. I think your favorite too?
That or Scott Pilgrim. Yeah, it's probably between those two.
Yeah, but I mean, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Baby Driver, Last Night in Soho, so many great movies. And this movie stars Glenn Powell as Ben Richards. And it is the same basic concept, but this movie does it followed the format of the book a bit more from what I've heard. I haven't read the book, but just from people that have read it, it kind of goes along those lines a bit more, where in the original, Arnold doesn't have a family, really. He just is kind of on his own, doing his thing. In this one, Glenn Powell enters the Running Man competition because he's trying to provide for his wife and his sick daughter, so they're trying to get medicine. And he joins this, and the company is kind of led by Josh Brolin, who's doing all the game show again, just kind of this conglomerate corporation. And then you have Coleman Domingo as the game show host, who is great.
Perfect in the best part of the movie.
Yes.
Perfect in this movie.
He is so charismatic and gets to just be kind of boisterous and just eating it up.
He has one of my favorite voices of anyone ever in all time. Like, the way he growls through words, I'm like, oh my God. I was telling my wife about this movie. I'm like, Coleman Domingo's in it. She thankfully knows who Coleman Domingo is, but only because he was in a Sabrina Carpenter music video or some music video. And I was like, he's one of the best actors working today.
Yeah.
And also, likely, probably one of your favorite actors, just from what I can gather about your opinions on Sing Sing and stuff like that. But he's so good in this movie.
He's really great. And I mean, we do have a good cast here overall.
It's a great team everywhere.
Yeah,
Cast,
Katie
crew.
O'Brien, Lee Pace as kind of a fun role, William H. Macy, Michael Cera, Amelia Jones, a lot of different people popping up in this movie, which I think is to its detriment.
Yeah.
I think that this movie, like I said, when I heard about Edgar Wright tackling this, I thought he could ride that line of kind of the chaotic energy of a Running Man killing competition. I was like, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
And I didn't quite get that. This movie, one of the biggest negatives is that it feels kind of generic action movie in a way. And something Edgar Wright is known for so much is like his editing and incorporating music within it. If you're looking at Baby Driver with his action there, or just having great transitions between things, and like
World's End, yeah.
Yeah, like you don't really get that here. It just feels like anybody could have made this movie. It just didn't stand out to me. And I think, again, with the too many characters, it just kind of is repetitive, where once Glenn Powell gets into the game, he just kind of meets somebody just kind of randomly, just happenstance, just happens to see this kid in the street that can help him out. It's like, where the fuck did he come from? And then they help him out for a second, he escapes, meets Michael Cera, do this, escape, meet William H. Macy, get him some gear, he goes from there. And it just kind of does the same fucking thing, and then it ends, and I was like, alright, that's fine.
Yeah.
I just didn't surprise me at all.
No, and similar to you, having Edgar Wright, who is like the king of editing and transitioning in film, and look at what he was able to do with Scott Pilgrim. That is some of the best action and best in-camera action. Like, you can see everything, and it's picturesque. Like, every frame, you can see everything in frame. In this, I'm like, we're editing quick. It doesn't feel stylized in the way that I'd anticipate or expect from like an Edgar Wright film. Granted, he's not like always editing his own movies, but it is a common staple throughout his films that the editing is crisp, clean, and it flows through the movie, and it works to service what we're seeing on screen. Whereas here, I'm like, I'm losing what's happening in some of these action sequences. Not that any of the action is necessarily like bad. It's just never up to the echelon, that tier of what I anticipate to see from an Edgar Wright directed film. And I was really going in thinking like, we're going to get Scott Pilgrim versus the world, but in this Running Man world, this dystopian future of this man trying to make money, survive 30 days, survive and be able to give his family a better life, and we'll get more like hard, aggressive action. And it just never happened. And every action scene, like, you see it a lot in trailers, like that one in the, kind of like the dungy, like motel, hotel apartment building, whatever it is, where he's, I got a grenade, and he throws it, and then Lee Pace kicks it back at him. And it's like, I've seen almost that entire sequence cut through the trailers, and I was like, there's nothing new here. There's nothing flashy. None of the action is flashy. And like you said, it's very rinse and repeat repetitive. He meets a character, they take him from point A to B, new character takes him from B to C, new character takes him from C to D. And throughout the movie, it just got so repetitive that I was like, not that this movie is super long, it's 2 hours and maybe 13 minutes at most. It is so poorly paced because of that repetitive nature that it just, I'm like, wrap up. Like, I don't care where we're at. Somehow end this movie. And I like the cast, I like the crew, I like who made this movie, but I was so just glazed over watching it, especially in that final act, which gets very convoluted. I think we have a really good villain in Josh Brolin's character. Coleman Domingo kind of is in that villainous, like, big bolstering role of yeah, we're gonna kill, like, and I there are aspects of the movie that I did enjoy, but it's just, there was nothing that felt like an auteur such as Edgar Wright made this. This felt so made by committee, nameless director, someone put this out. And it lacked that specialness that I was expecting from this movie. Not only that, I think Glenn Powell, I teeter-totter back and forth on whether I think that this man was the best cast actor for Ben Richards, because there's an aspect of this movie that you and I talked about before, didn't work for me, where they paint Ben Richards, and this could be true in the book or not, I haven't read the book, I don't know, where Ben Richards is the angriest man in the world, apparently, and anytime a character says that in screen, which they say almost verbatim in this movie, you're the angriest man in the world, and I was like, shut the fuck up. No, he's not. He's curmudgeoning, he's mad, but he's not the angriest man in the world, and there are so many scenes where Glenn Powell has to sell very angry, very tough, and it just doesn't come across. And I like Glenn Powell, but I was like, it's kind of like giving Puppy trying to have a big bark. Not working for me. So it was hard to get behind a lot of the performances. The action wasn't special. The editing was nothing. The story structure was formulaic and repetitive. And then by the time we get to that final act, it's so convoluted that I checked out. So it's not the biggest disappointment of the year. I didn't hate this movie by any means, but for what this could have been, it is a disappointment. This could have been something great. This could have been like the definitive like action movie for the rest of 2025 post-summer. Like we got a dystopian future retelling of a Richard Bachman Stephen King book. This could have been something special, and it was just so generic. Just so upsetting. It
was, that third act really, just after the repetitive nature, again, kind of light spoiler alert, Amelia Jones is just randomly driving a car.
Yep.
And then she becomes a big part of it where he's holding her hostage. And they had never, like, the hunters had never had a problem killing him before. But, or killing innocent people, honestly. Because, like, there's a scene with Katie O'Brien in a casino and, like, innocent people are just dying.
People die in that.
But then all of a sudden he has a hostage and they're like, well, we can't do anything. They're driving. We got to let them get on this plane. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I like Amelia Jones. She was great in Coda. Like, she was good, but
I didn't even put that together. That's who that is. Oh my god.
She hasn't been in a lot of stuff really,
she's
but
fantastic.
It was just things like that. And then there was also this like sort of conspiracy theorist like YouTube page almost that popped up at the end of the movie and really took me out of the ending, where it was like breaking down, well, what really happened at the end.
It's like, and you get a hint of it earlier in the film, but when it comes in at the ending, it's like, I don't want this. No. I want resolution to the story, not this person literally spoon feeding me what they thought the ending means. And I was like, God damn it, just fucking end this. Like, how are we doing this?
Yeah, so very disappointing for me. I also forgot to mention that when I saw this in theaters, the morning of, my grandparents asked me if I could come over and help them put up some heavier stuff for them that they couldn't lift. So I was like, sure, I can do that. I have time before the movie. And my grandma was like, do you want some lunch? I'm like, well, yeah, I got time for lunch. And then we just kept talking, and they were talking, and I'm like, all right, movie's kind of coming up soonish. It's like 15 minutes away. Like, I got a little leeway with trailers and stuff.
Gotta find a way to naturally blend and get out of there.
Yeah, and then my grandpa's telling me about his hearing aids and stuff, and I'm like, all right, I kind of gotta get going. And then he's like, actually, I'm going in for like a cochlear implant thing. I'm like, okay, I feel bad leaving right now because you're my grandparents and I love you. So I ended up kind of getting to the movie late and missing the first like couple minutes. I did go back and watch it online.
You didn't miss much, honestly.
Yeah,
like, it's a standard setup.
It was like him getting fired from his job. So like I didn't miss a ton. So I like I said, I watched it again. But also during the movie, and this happens to me so much, where I sit down for a movie my day off or the morning before I go to work, and everybody decides to call me during the fucking movie, where I'm sitting there, I'm already late, I'm kind of flustered trying to get in, not bother anybody else that's already watching it, and I sit down, I'm like, alright, fuck, I'm catching up now. Fucking see my phone, mom calls. I'm like, alright, well, it's fine, I'll call you after, it's fine.
It's fine.
Fucking dad calls me 5 minutes later. Great. Put it away. Dad calls me again. I'm like, okay, this might be something serious, and I felt bad. I was the only one in my row, in the back row. There's nobody by me, so I'm like, I don't like to take out my phone, but I text him, like, hey, sorry I missed your call, what's up? He's like, I'm just checking in. I'm like, well, why'd you call twice? Because now you made me think that there's something serious going on. And then everybody else decides to start texting me or sending me things through any social media platform. They're like, right now, in this 2-hour stretch. And I was distracted. I was also kind of tired from the night before. It was a weird viewing experience, so I thought that maybe tainted this, but I'm glad to hear that we're kind of on the same page.
Yeah.
Because overall, it was a weird experience for me personally, but also just a little bit disappointing overall.
No, I was really excited to go into this, and I saw this movie early, like 10 a.m. on a Saturday. So like I feel like I was in a good headspace, and I had heard okay things, but I'm like, it's Edgar Wright, it's got to be fun, and it kind of lacks some of that fun energy that is expected with an Edgar Wright movie. So, and you mentioned that scene with Emilia Jones in that car. This movie is very blunt and very like in your face with its messaging, which I'm fine, and I'd expect that more in like an 80s film of it being kind of blunt and over the top. This one I was really blown away at how tone deaf it was. And there's the scene with Emilia Jones and Glenn Powell that in the movie stood out to me. Sore thumb, I was like, I hate this. I can't stand this scene. And it's when he's like, oh, I'm the bad guy. You're the one that's wearing a scarf that's more than the medicine that saved my sick kid. Oh, but you're going to call me the bad. And it's so just yelling at the audience, like just, oh, look at this disparity and look how fucked up it is. It's like, I get it. You could play this a completely different way. And I'm like, I don't know if that's an issue with the writing or the performance, but I'm like, you are just so nailing me over the head with this. It's so layered on thick. So I didn't love this movie. I wish I liked it, honestly, just a little bit more than I did. I'd probably, if I had to give it a rating, it'd probably be like maybe C+, B-. Like, it's fine. I had a family member ask me if they should go see it, and I was like, I've seen 84 movies this year. It's like kind of in the middle, lower half, like top of the lower half, and I'm like, it's fun. Like, maybe you'll like it. I don't know. Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it to a lot. It is by far and away the worst Edgar Wright directed film I've ever seen.
Agreed.
There's nothing in this movie that makes me feel like Edgar Wright made this. And I'm like, I want to know what happened. Like, did this movie somehow get taken out of his hands? I doubt it. I didn't hear anything about that. So it's just like, it just feels so uncharacteristic of something I'd expect from him. And it just feels pedestrian and generic, which is not what you can levy against World's End, Scott Pilgrim, Last Night in Soho, any of his movies. Yeah. They're all fantastic. So another movie that we had this past week, we had a couple of kind of big things I was getting relatively excited for, but Keeper came out this week, directed by Osgood Perkins, and we've talked kind of a lot about his filmography just because I've kind of had a love-hate relationship with a lot of his films. Long Legs we both really like. The Black Coat's Daughter, I love. The Monkey, I think we both agree, sucks ass. Yeah. Doesn't work for us. But Keeper had, again, similar to his most recent efforts, a baller marketing campaign. The trailers for this, I was like, this is going to be something genuinely scary, something intense. I like the performers in this, mostly Tatiana Maslany. I don't have a lot of exposure to Rousseff Sutherland. Didn't you say he's the son of Donald?
Donald, yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that until you mentioned it. But it's about a romantic anniversary trip to a secluded cabin. It's this 1-year relationship anniversary for this new couple, and they're going to this cabin in the woods. But this sinister, dark presence reveals itself, at least to Tatiana Maslany's character, forcing this couple to kind of confront this like haunting past of sorts. I'm not even gonna lead. I really didn't like this movie. And I already posted a review giving this movie a D+. This is my least favorite Osgood Perkins movie. We talked about that. It's a toss-up between this or Monkey. I would rather rewatch this over Monkey. I think that this works better, but it didn't work for me in general just because I thought that this story was so predictable. I thought that the trailers also promise you a he said, she said story of like, I wish you would die, I wish you didn't live, or something like that. And you get different perspectives, at least in that first trailer that I was exposed to. And I was like, oh, what are we going to do here? Nope, throughout the entirety of the movie, I was questionable about this Rousseff Sutherland character. I was like, you're maybe behind something. I don't know. Maybe light spoiler alert, I should say, before we really get into
I kind of want to talk about the ending a bit too.
Where a lot of weird shit's going on. Tatiana Maslany is like experiencing things, but she's kind of being gaslit and like experiencing these things, and no one's really hearing her out. Rousseff Sutherland's character has a cousin who lives across the street and comes in unannounced and makes her feel uncomfortable, and all these weird things and creaks are happening in this house, and it didn't surmount to anything really impactful to me. It felt predictable that I was like, Rousseff Sutherland, I think you are you're behind this. You're the reason things are going weird. The evil force is somehow linked to you, and we get to, after thinking that, you get a big expository scene about an hour and 20 minutes in of this hour and 40-minute movie where you get this tell-all, this exposition dump where you find out what's going on. And I was like, well, yeah, that's exactly what I thought kind of was happening. Not necessarily every exact detail, but I'm like, yeah, okay, I knew that you, especially from like the first 5 minutes of footage of 4 different women and not really getting the ends of those threads. And then, well, it's like, all right, those are lingering. I know where that likely leads. And this guy's the common denominator probably. And it worked out to be so. So this movie I found to be too predictable for it to be anything thrilling or engaging or scary. I wasn't scared or I never like got the thrills of anything. I am also pissed at the marketing campaign for revealing this kind of look at this monster, this force that is in the movie briefly. I'm like, I know that that's to come. And then I saw it and I was like, this would have been so cool to experience for the first time, not in a trailer. It felt kind of given away to me and it felt lost on me when I saw it in the movie. So this movie was a massive swing and a miss for me, but I think stylistically it does work, which is a thing I could probably say about most of Osgood Perkins' films. Is stylistically, aesthetically, it works. The story itself felt very weak though.
I enjoyed this one a lot more than The Monkey. I think I like this movie actually quite a bit more than you do. First of all, I really love the atmosphere of this movie. Yeah. I think being at a cabin in the woods, quote unquote, and just kind of in this like the woods, the creek, just kind of this smaller setting, I really enjoyed that right away. And I think there actually were like a couple creepy moments of good imagery. A lot of it, too, is just sometimes of, like, the camera pointing up at a corner of the house and just kind of at the shadow or, like, the beams on the ceiling or whatever.
There's one, like, specific in the living room that they did, like, 4 times, and I was like, okay, what's going on?
It was a little repetitive at times, but
the first couple of times it worked, and I was like, okay, well, what is it? Because, like, there's a pause in the dialogue, and Rousseff Sutherland, like, looks at it, and I'm like, okay, what is it?
Yeah, and it's, like, part of its shadow, so I think part of it works. I think they could have done it a couple less times for sure. And then, getting into spoilers, I kind of want to talk about that a bit. You figure out that there was this, like, kind of witch or demon-type presence in the woods that Rousseff Sutherland and his cousin or brother, whatever it was, they encountered in the woods, and then they kind of, from what I understood, made a deal with it to kind of bring it souls, essentially, to feed it, bring, these women there that you kind of see early in the movie, bring it there to feed this presence, and then... I think there was something in that exposition scene where he said, like, it doesn't know its own freedom, so, like, it can't leave, really.
Yeah.
So it kind of just stays in this area in the woods, in this house. And I do agree that it was kind of predictable that Rousseff Sutherland was going to be kind of an antagonist of it. So I guess I wasn't as upset because I didn't know where it was going to go after that, where Tatiana Maslany, like... a person that looked exactly like her or an ancestor or whatever it was this initial witch-type presence. And so I kind of like that, and then she's down in the basement with these creatures, and they start coming out of the, like, darkness. I really like the design of them.
Yeah.
They have, like, a mouth open, and there's just, like, spit dripping out of them. One's coming down the stairs, there's another out of the shadows, another one's right by her. I kind of like setting up that. That actually kind of freaked me out. I was like, ooh, that's some creepy imagery, creepy creature design there, too. And then her essentially, like, dipping him in honey or whatever the fuck it was, and putting Rousseff Sutherland in that and kind of getting back at him, and you see him age a lot more because he's kind of this immortal dude.
Yeah.
So I really did like the last, like, 10 to 15 minutes when you see after the reveal, after the exposition scene, which this movie, it's like, all right, this is the scene where they explain shit. I kind of like that. It was interesting to me. I thought it was cool. I liked Tatiana Maslany a lot in this movie.
100%.
I thought she was great. She, like you, I don't know much. I haven't seen a lot of her work. I haven't seen Orphan Black. I know she was in that show. Really, I've just seen She-Hulk and The Monkey.
It's probably not the best.
Yeah, so, and I'm like, she was fine in The Monkey. She's a small role, but I thought this one she did a really good job, and you see her kind of diving into the paranoia of it, and, like, there's this cake she's eating, and she's like, is it actually that, or am I just tripping out? Is there other shit going on? So this one kind of worked for me. I liked, again, the atmosphere of it. I liked where the movie ended up. I think that was a big thing I was worried about, was not liking the ending, but I actually really did like the ending.
Yeah.
So this one I thought had some good visual imagery. I liked the performances too. I think that it's an interesting watch. It's not a home run for me.
No.
It's not like a top tier horror movie, but I do like it significantly more than The Monkey.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. Tatiana Maslany is not the saving grace of this movie, but she is the most consistent positive throughout this film. Not only that, I think she gives a really realistic performance in like not the prototypical like idiot in a horror film. Like she gives really good reactions and handles things in a way where I'm like, this is how a normal person or someone intelligent person would handle this. I agree with you. I like the ending. Like the last like 5 or so minutes really works for me, especially the ending like few shots. I was like, this is good. It's just at that point I was already so checked out of it that I'm like, you're not saving me. You're not saving this movie for me. But I like there's some imagery that stood out and worked for me. And I think that there is some like potential plot threads left with like a friend of hers that she calls and come pick me up, like that kind of gets unresolved. But also there's some interesting moments of like, have you seen the movie The Invitation with not Tom Hardy, the like Logan Marshall Green?
I haven't, no.
So there's an aspect of the movie at the end of that. I don't want to spoil that if you haven't seen it actually, so never mind. Forget that. But in this movie, there's an implication that this witch demon force rules over the entire woods, and that their neighbors, not only just Rosef and his cousin brother, are in on it. Like, oh well, at least he didn't meet our neighbors. Like they handle this a different way. Like I like the implication of some of the things. It's just nothing really got me, aside from Tatiana Maslany's good performance and some good imagery towards the final act. So I wanted this to be something special. And Osgood Perkins, dude, just take a break, because your marketing campaigns are really selling your horror movies better than they end up warranting. So I'm like, just take a break. Maybe come up. I know he didn't write the story for this or write the script for it, but I'm like, maybe wait a minute and just find something that's really good, because I think he is probably capable of handling a really good horror film. I think Longlegs actually has really worked for me, and Blackcoat's Daughter. But I'm like, maybe you're grinding out too many to where it's just I'm unresponsive to it and I'm numb to it. So I think he has the capability of being a good director. I just don't think this was the biggest hit for him.
I think he is weirdly like kind of overrated a bit, even just in the last couple of years, where like the marketing, like you said, and people discussing it being like the new face of horror, which I don't agree with that necessarily. I will say about this movie, I think that he has a better it's more consistent, where it doesn't have a lot of his weird humor that he had in The Monkey.
The Monkey, yeah.
Even like some parts of Longlegs with Nicolas Cage's character, where it's like just the weird and wackiness, where it kind of takes you out a little bit.
Yeah.
And I like Longlegs. I don't think it's incredible, but it didn't quite have that. I think this movie was a bit more focused in that terms of as far as the tone goes.
True to the tone, yeah.
Yeah, there is. You mentioned Tatiana Maslany being mostly a smart character. There's one scene where she comes back into the house and then the garbage disposal turns on.
That was stupid. Oh, so dumb.
Garbage disposal turns on. There's something grinding in there, and she's like, "What the fuck?" Turns it off, and then she's like, "Let me reach my hand all the way inside of it." Grabs like a watch out. I'm like, "This. I wish your arm would have got fucking chopped off, because that's so dumb."
I hate that like formulaic thing in horror movies, because you see it a lot, and you rarely see someone so stupid just yam their entire fucking hand in it. I'm like, what are you doing?
It just turned on without you being there. Yeah. What are you doing?
I'm like, don't touch that.
Yeah. So this one, kind of a mixed bag. I would recommend seeing it to kind of judge how you feel about it. Because I kind of liked it. I'd probably give it a B, right in that range.
I'd say it's worth checking out if you're a fan of any of Osgood Perkins' movies. If you're not consistently a fan of his movies, I think this one might work for you. It might not. Like, it didn't work for me, but I still like Longlegs. I like Blackcoat's Daughter. I don't like The Monkey. Like, he's kind of hit or miss for me. I would still recommend it, especially since there's not a lot of like big horror stuff coming out. I think it will satisfy some aspects of that for you if you're a big horror fan, but he's hit or miss that it's so hard for me to pinpoint whether a fan of his work is going to like it or not. So I'd say check it out, even as someone who didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. The other big release from this week, which if you listen to last week's episode, you heard Mason go on a rant about the Now You See Me franchise.
Yeah.
We know that you hate it. You said that anybody that watches these movies doesn't have an IQ, needs to read a book or something along those lines.
Yeah, maybe I was really drunk and mean, but because like after recording, I was like, I went too hard into that, so I'm gonna be a little apologetic here, but I still hate these fucking movies.
You know, I think you're a little too tough on these movies. I think you're a little. I think now I watched through the entire franchise this week.
You have a more consistent and more current view of these movies than I do, I will admit.
Yeah. Also, actually, one last note about Keeper. I also got to this movie a little bit late. It was the day after I saw The Running Man, and I was already mad about being late for that. This one, I left on time, and there was a fucking crash that delayed me like 20 minutes. And so I missed the first, like, probably 30 seconds to a minute.
Where did you see both of them?
Running Man, I saw at Imagine Willow Creek. Keeper was at Imagine Egan.
Okay.
So, yeah, there was the crash, and, like, obviously that's more important than me getting to a movie. But I was still just like, really? 2 days in a row? I missed, like, the first couple minutes of the movie.
Week, yeah.
It's like, God damn it. I'll have another theater thing in a few movies here that I'll talk about.
God.
Anyways, the Now You See Me franchise. I'd only seen the original movie probably 10 years ago or something. I remember enjoying it enough, thought it was fine, liked it. Don't shake your head.
I just hate this movie.
I'd never seen the second one, obviously went and saw the third one. So, with these movies, as a blanket statement for all three of them, they're very dumb. Like, you think back on any of the reveals, it's about these magicians that are kind of involved in these action scenarios or heist scenarios. It's kind of an interesting blend. I think it works well enough for the first movie, where like you have Mark Ruffalo, this FBI agent who's trying to track the team as they're like pulling off these heists. They're kind of Robin Hood type characters, giving back to the poor, like people that have wronged other people financially. So they're doing that. You got Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Dave Franco, and Isla Fisher as the Four Horsemen. And these movies are weird for me because I realize that a lot of things I'm watching are kind of dumb, and you think back on the movie after it's over, and you're like, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. That they do the reveal thing of like, here's how we did the trick, and you're like, it kind of makes sense, but not really. Like, I don't even think you guys know that this doesn't make sense. It's very dumb. But they're very enjoyable movies to me, and I don't really know why. I can't really put a finger on it. I think a big part of it is the cast. These movies have really good casts. Melanie Laurent is in the first movie, and then you have Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine showing up in the first one as well. And I kind of just like the sequence of events that happen in this movie. It's not boring by any means. It's pretty fast-paced, so it's never slow. The second one it's directed by John M. Chu, who we'll talk about in a bit with Wicked for Good. Crazy that he's two different sequels that he's
the dichotomy
tackled.
of John M. Chu. It's crazy.
The second one, you add Lizzie Kaplan into the cast. Isla Fisher actually did not return for the second one. She comes back for the third one, though. Then everybody comes back for the third one. But the second one, I didn't like as much. You have Daniel Radcliffe as the villain. He's actually pretty fun in the movie. I like seeing him. But there is, again, just really dumb scenes. You mentioned it of the card going through people's clothes as they're transferred into each other.
It's like, you're not sweaty at all. That card's not sticking to you anywhere, really.
It's wild. And I think the biggest thing with this franchise is not quite having, like, I don't know, because they present it like they're magic tricks, but then they reveal how they do the magic, and they're like, this is the process.
Yeah.
But then they're like, there's this eye, it's called, where it's like this kind of hieroglyphic Egyptian thing where it's this magical force that they listen to the eye to give them their next assignment or whatever. And that's sort of magic, like real.
Yeah.
But then they kind of debunk it sometimes, but then other times they're like, no, it actually is. But then sometimes it's just Daniel Radcliffe doing shit, or in the other movies, the villain. So I'm like, I don't know if you guys know what you want to commit to as far as this goes. Because again, it's kind of action, it's kind of magic focused, it's kind of a heist movie at times, and it's very interesting. And a lot of the things I'm saying, I'm like, yeah, I feel like I should hate these movies, but I don't. Like, they're fine. They're kind of an enjoyable watch. The new one, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Whew, what a title. Great title.
They should have done that for the second one.
Yeah, they kind of missed the mark on that. But Ruben Fleischer directed this, who did the Zombieland movies, which I like. Uncharted is pretty fun. I enjoy that movie.
I haven't seen it.
Uncharted?
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Oh, really?
No, I skipped that one.
Oh, shit, I thought you saw that movie. It's fun time. Again, you get the whole cast kind of reuniting here, and it's kind of centered around a diamond heist. Rosamund Pike is the main villain in the movie, doing an awful German accent. It's terrible. Because I don't 100% know where Rosamund Pike is from. I think she's from the UK, maybe?
Oh, look it up.
Yeah, fact check me on that, because I don't remember. I know she's not German.
Based on her
fucking accent. And if she is, I'm going to be very surprised. She's like this, she's got these diamonds and she's kind of selling them to black market people and a lot of shady people.
She's from Hammersmith, London.
She's from, yeah, so she's English.
She's British, yeah.
Yeah, the accent's really bad. But, I don't know, this new one, watching in theaters, I was just kind of having fun with it, seeing the whole team together. You have kind of a new crew. It's sort of like a Expendables 3 type of thing.
Oh, no.
Which I know, saying that is like, that's bad, of bringing on a younger crew. But they do have Dominic Sessa, Ariana Greenblatt, and Justice Smith, who are they've had some good projects before this. And they kind of come in as this new crew of magicians working with the old school team. They're trying to do this heist. You get the scenes where they're doing their little tricks and then they reveal it. And maybe I'm just dumb and I'm like, I kind of want to know how they did that. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker. Maybe I don't. Maybe I do have a low IQ and can't read. But I'm kind of like, oh, how'd they do that there? How'd that card get over there? Like, rabbits in the...
rabbits?
Fuck. Okay. All right. The ship's over there now? Like, I don't know. It's not a great franchise by any means. It was kind of fun watching through them this week. I think they are pretty harmless movies to me. I know not for Mason that he despises them.
They really piss me off, yeah. To an absurd amount, I will admit.
Yeah, I don't think they're that bad. I can understand why you don't like them. You could pick these movies apart every single scene. Whereas I'm just kind of like, yeah, I realize that they're not great. I have a fun enough time. They're okay.
This also, so to give a little backstory, I used to bring, I'm the movie guy in my family, at least in my immediate family. So every time we'd go to a movie, it'd be a movie I usually was picking. So I remember taking my family to Gravity in 2013, and they all hated Gravity. And I was like, what are you talking about? This movie's amazing. But then, and we also saw Now You See Me. I hated that movie. I think it's shit, and they all loved it. And I was like, I'm surrounded by idiots. But, what I will say, I went off the deep end a little bit on insulting people last week. And if you like this franchise, fine. I shouldn't step on what you might like. I want you to at least acknowledge that these movies are ridiculous and stupid, which I think most people would. But even saying that, I love the Venom trilogy, which is, I feel like, a pretty good approximation for the quality of these films, just more and more, at least slightly more modern franchise, even though they kind of run concurrently. I like the Venom movies. Some people like the Now You See Me movies. I like the Fast and the Furious movies. I like Clash of the Titans, directed by Louis Leterrier. So it's I like shitty movies that are stupid and bad. This one, for some reason, doesn't work for me.
When I was rewatching the first movie, I was kind of thinking about the National Treasure movies, which I like more than these.
Yeah.
But it's that same sort of thing where it's Nicolas Cage exploring these historical things, and it's ridiculous. It's the clue on the Declaration of Independence, what the fuck? That doesn't make sense. But I'm kind of I'm just going with it, having a good little fun adventure. That's what these movies are for me. They were very watchable and fine.
And it's such a likable cast. Woody Harrelson and anything, I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah, and him and Jesse Eisenberg have obviously done Zombieland movies, so they have a good rapport, and kind of in this third movie too, with everybody getting together, it was just all right, we got the team. They're all having fun. They obviously wanted to come back for this movie and just have a little fun. It's harmless, fine. It's okay.
I'm sad to hear that Rosamund Pike is the worst, or one of the weaker links of this third movie, as she is one of my favorite actresses since Gone Girl, which that sucks. But if you had to rank these three, how would you rank them?
I think I would go 1, 3, then 2.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The first two, I put the first one above the second one, but I don't like either of them. So, and I probably won't see this third one. It's just not high up on the list. Maybe I'll get drunk and watch it one day, and then somehow love this franchise because I drank too much. But I'm happy that you got to complete it. I am also happy that I didn't do what you did and sit through and watch this trilogy, because this would have been a very angry episode, likely. A movie that I caught up on that was in limited release for us in the Minneapolis area Playing at the main cinema was just an accident. This is a movie that I knew I would need to see eventually just because it won the Palme d'Or at Cannes, or Cannes, sorry, I'm not that pretentious. It's been in that conversation for likely Best International Feature. It's directed by Jafar Panahi. It's a film that I saw the trailers. I was like, this is interesting. It's intriguing. It's a good little thriller. There's a shot in the trailer, also exists in the movie, of the headlights illuminating a man tied to a tree. And I was like, okay, you got me. Like, the imagery of that works alone. But it's a small mishap that triggers a chain of reactions that further increases this ever-growing problem that these main characters, this group, is facing. And yes, it's a thriller, but I was so surprised that the humor in it and the humanity in a lot of these characters, where a bad thing is happening, but we see flashes of like, oh no, these are human beings and they don't mean to be doing bad things, but they were wronged so long ago. So this is their attempt to make things right. And I don't want to give much away. I don't know if a lot of people have this movie on their radar, but this is my third favorite film of the year. Quality-wise, it's probably the best made movie I've seen this year, but just personal kind of bias. It's my third favorite film of the year, and it has the best ending I've seen in I don't know how long. This movie shook me. It made me laugh at times. It is so well-paced, and it's so unpredictable in what happens and what these characters choose to do, and this kind of thrown together group of characters of like this woman that's about to get married and their photographer and the main character and this crazy guy that they're all like, we shouldn't include him in this plot because he's kind of fucking insane. And then they include him, they're like, yeah, he's fucking insane. Like, fucking idiot. So I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a movie that really was funny at times, unnerving and thrilling at times, had me laughing, had me like unsettled, and almost had me to a point of crying. Like, I was like, wow, I didn't expect this from this movie, and I didn't expect this from these characters who have definitely been wronged. And then the ending is, like I said, it's a great ending, but it's also the thing that has scared me the most I've seen in theaters. That just, I felt the hairs on my back go up. So it's probably not on the most like average film goers' radar, but it was just an accident. It's more than worth your time. It's a great film. I'm sorry, you're going to have to read subtitles. You'll be okay. You can read. It's not that bad. It's a great film, and I won't be surprised when I see it in Oscar contention later on this year.
100%. This is one that in the international feature, even Best Picture, we see some sneak in there. Yeah. This feels like one that could be.
Oh, I hope so.
Even though I haven't seen this movie, I will be seeing it this week. There's just, again, we mention every week, kind of in the fall, it's busy. There's a lot of shit coming out. It's a lot of Netflix movies that are coming to theaters.
Limited releases and shit.
Just a lot to try and engage with every week. But I am so excited to see it. When it won at Cannes, the Palme d'Or, I just was like, all right, this is one that I'm going to need to see. I will more than likely have my thoughts on it next week. Another movie that will hopefully be in the Oscar conversation, I think it's kind of a dark horse a little bit, is Train Dreams, which is directed by Clint Bentley, who was one of the writers of Sing Sing. I've talked about how much I love that movie on here. This was my third weird theater experience of the week. Not as bad as the other two of being late, but I went to see it at the Landmark Lagoon Cinema in Minneapolis. And I sat down there. It's kind of an old school theater.
Yeah.
And this homeless guy came in like right before the movie was going to start with all of his bags and sacks and plastic bags of food that he had. Sat down a few rows in front of me, was rifling through his plastic bag of shit, and then was eating, I think, the loudest trail mix I've ever heard in my life. Of just finding all of the chips, the whatever they are, the fried like
Or like the rye chips?
Yeah, the rye chips.
That's the best part of the trail mix.
He also thought that, and because he was making sure everybody heard him eating that as his Target plastic bags. And he had a big, probably jumbo-sized bag of trail mix.
The rye chips are the best part. I'm happy that he got to enjoy that.
Yeah, enjoy them before you come in, fucker. That's why they serve popcorn at movies, because it's not softer. That loud. Yeah. Anyways, just an interesting week of me going to the theater. But this movie, kind of just hearing you talk about it was just an accident, where it sounds like it has some shocking moments and kind of big things that happen. This is such a quiet exploration of this guy named Robert Grenier. This is based on a book Robert Grenier, who is a logger and railroad worker in the early 20th century, that's just trying to build his life, that's trying to provide for his family. And he's played by Joel Edgerton, who is so great in anything he pops up in. And it's just really, like, there's not a lot of big things that happen in this movie. It's about an hour and 42 minutes, but he's just kind of connecting with nature around him. He's just in this very rustic cabin, which I relate to. I'm like, man, if I could go back and just, like, live in a cabin, no technology, just, like, work on the railroad or something, like, that's the dream to me. I love... Anytime I get to, like, go up to my cabin and just be in the woods or go camping or whatever it is, I really connect with that a lot. So I think this movie maybe worked more for me than it will for other people. But it's just a nice look at his life. And Felicity Jones plays his wife in the movie. They have a daughter, so it's kind of how they are involved with his life as he gets older. And especially, too, with, you see him logging, and they're obviously using axes and the big saws as they're, sawing through. But then it comes around and you get chainsaws, you get more technology, you get less of a need for human people in certain respects. Yeah. And so it's him adapting to that as well. And there's just a really kind of beautiful scene at the end of the movie that, again, is very quiet. It's not a big moment. The music's not swelling. But it's just him as an older man riding in an airplane, flying over like this city, the woods, whatever. And he's just finally... kind of appreciating life as it's coming to an end. Mm-hmm. And it's just a small moment. It's very quick, but it's very sweet and very touching. And I think that's where this movie succeeds. It's not a big emotional movie. I think it would have been tempting to do the big, screaming scenes of yelling the Oscar bait moments of like, we need to make our life or whatever. Yeah. It's just kind of like, this is it. This is the presentation of it. I do think there are a few too many flashbacks in the movie to events that we see before, where I got it and I didn't need it to come back again.
Spell it out for me.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's like one too many times you did it. But this one is just a really nice movie. I think it actually is coming out to Netflix this week. I'm happy I got to see it in theaters because it looks beautiful. It's just all in nature. It's just in the woods. It's on the railroad. I really connected with it. I really liked it. It probably is in my top 10 of the year. Okay. But I could see a lot of people saying it's boring or that they thought it was good but didn't love this movie. Mm. So I would recommend it. Again, I think it could be a dark horse in terms of Best Picture or maybe some other big nominations too.
Yeah, I'm excited. I want to check it out. I love Sing Sing and having the writer carry over. That's a big selling point for me. And I love Joel Edgerton. I don't think people talk enough about how great of an actor he is, also a director, but as an actor especially. And this is a movie that I would be so dead set on seeing this in theaters. I'm gonna try to. I've been to the Landmark Lagoon once. I saw Nomadland in 2020. Mm-hmm. So I haven't been there since. I would love to go and see Train Dreams. I just know that there's a lot of movies already filling up this week that I'm like, this might have to be a Netflix streaming thing, or at least that's the earliest I could see it, is maybe catching it on Netflix. We'll see. But I am really excited to see this, and I'm happy that you got to check it out because I know it was kind of one of the more anticipated films for you this year. A movie that you talked about last week that I got to see, immediately after we talked, I was like, I'm going to go watch it at home, was Sorry Baby, because it was streaming on HBO Max, directed by Eva Victor, who is sensational in this movie. You mentioned about just how not necessarily quirky, but how it just like explores a tragedy or a traumatic event in a very human, somewhat quirky, bubbly, but an authentic way. And it's not something that's so dour or too sad. It's a bad thing that happens to Agnes. That's the whole process or whole plot of this movie, is something bad happened to Agnes, and this is how she kind of lives post that. And you mentioned some great scenes, especially towards the tail end when she sits down with a baby, and it's this character's kind of awkward. She's kind of offbeat. And then she's talking to this baby in a way that is so deeply human and deeply moving, but it's also it's a baby. The baby doesn't understand you, but also you're saying what you need to hear, and it's really effective. I really enjoyed this movie. It was a movie that I heard a lot about when it was still kind of main swing in theaters, that it was something really special because it was nominated for Best Feature and Screenplay at the Gotham Awards. It is a very well-made film. Very well directed and acted. Naomi Ackie, I fucking love. Every movie she's in, I'm getting just further in love with her as an actress. I loved her in Mickey 17. I loved her here too. And John Carroll Lynch, you also, I think, brought this up. There's a small role or a small performance he gives in this film, and he plays my favorite type of person, of just a normal person that is so uninvolved and absent and just not a part of this main character's life, but is willing to help out because he's just a good person. And it's just really charming and endearing to see that in movies. I loved this movie. My only complaint, and it's nothing that in the craft or in the making of this movie is an issue of the movie itself. It's just that the thing that Agnes is recovering from is a bit well explored at this point, and I feel like it could have been something a little bit more engaging. That being said, what happened to Agnes, I think that this film has handled it in a more realistic way, or in a new way that felt more kind of lived in. And yeah, I don't know how to handle this. This is just how I'm doing it, and it was refreshing in that manner. So, not that there's an issue with the movie, it was just kind of, oh, okay, that's what happened. Could have guessed that. But I really liked how this film responded to it. So I really was a big fan of this. I definitely recommend it. It's easily streaming on HBO Max, so definitely check it out.
Another thing that is recently on HBO Max is Materialists, which I know you caught in theaters earlier this year and talked about. I did not get a chance to see it in theaters, so watched it this past week. And it's directed by Celine Song, who made Past Lives, one of my favorite movies of the decade. I love it. It's touching, emotional. It works really well for me.
Relatable.
Yeah, very relatable. And this one I was very excited to see. It's got a great cast with Dakota Johnson playing a matchmaker in New York City who kind of finds herself in this love triangle with Chris Evans, her former boyfriend, and then Pedro Pascal, this new perfect man that is just, he's got everything. He's got the money, the looks, the personality, all of the things. And I think that this movie, as far as the positives go, it's been very mixed as far as the response to this movie. And I understand why, because I'm kind of in that range too, where I think the concept is really good of a matchmaker and what their love life looks like. Mm-hmm. I've never really seen that in a movie before. And I think it does have some good commentary on modern dating. There's a lot of scenes where Dakota Johnson's sitting down with people and she's just like, what are you looking for? And you know, both sides, it's like, well, they have to physically look like this. They
6'5", 6 figures, 6 inches. Like, let's go. Like,
they have to have all these things and like all the little, you know, nuances that people have. And they're like, I will not budge on any of this. Yeah. So I think it does tap into that really well, especially with like dating apps and all that stuff too. And I really do. I think Pedro Pascal and Chris Evans were great in this movie. I thought they played both ends of the spectrum very well. Like I mentioned, Pedro Pascal is kind of the very rich guy. Chris Evans is kind of down on his luck. He's a struggling actor. He's kind of living in an apartment with, you know, these shitty roommates. And the dichotomy between them, I think, worked well, and I think they performed that well. We also get a lot of great scenes about the discussions of why people get married. There's one scene where Dakota Johnson and Chris Evans kind of crash this wedding towards the end of the movie, and they're just sitting there watching. They're like, why do people do this? Like, why do people, like, get the government involved in their love life when in a couple months they're going to be arguing with each other about whether they want to have kids or whether they want to do this? And then in a couple of years, one of them's going to cheat on the other one. And then in a couple of years after that, they're going to get divorced. And then they're going to have to manage their kids and bring them. Like, why do people continually go through that? I like that discussion and just kind of hit home for me, too. So I thought all that was really good. I think where this movie falters a bit is, for me, mainly with the structure of the movie. And it's kind of weird because it almost wraps up in the second act. Yep. Where, spoiler alert, Dakota Johnson's dating Pedro Pascal, and she decides she doesn't want to be with him. She's like, you're the unicorn, they call it. Like, you're hitting every box, but we just don't have that connection like she does with Chris Evans' character. I do like that they don't make Pedro Pascal a villain of the movie.
He's just a good dude.
He's just like, you know what? Like, I'm sad. Like, that sucks. We could have been a great match. We could have had a good life together, but, like, he's not a bad guy by any means. And so then that ends in the second act, and then after that, I'm like, all right, well, I know where this is going now. She's going to be with Chris Evans. They'll fight a little bit, and then they'll make up, and they'll get together. And that's what happens. So it's like, it's a very weird way that they chose to structure the movie. There also is a subplot in the movie with one of Dakota Johnson's clients, who's played by Zoe Winters. She's great in Succession, so I love seeing her pop up and stuff. But it's with Zoe Winters' character and a person she went on a date with, and the kind of bad thing that happened there. it kind of breaks up the momentum of the movie anytime that pops up there. And I don't think the idea is necessarily bad. I just think that it could have been formatted in a way that felt more smooth across the whole movie. So it was, kind of a interesting watch because it's not a typical rom-com. I think a lot of people going in wanted it to be that, and it's not quite that, but it also ends on a note that is like a typical rom-com.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's also like scenes that bookmark the movie of these cave people that I just was too. I get what they're doing, but like it's too heavy-handed. It's like cut that. Just cut both of that shit. I didn't enjoy that really. Last little thing, Dakota Johnson. I don't know if she's the best actress, and I think she can be good. Like, I don't know. There's certain movies like Bad Times at the El Royale she pops up in. Like, other things I think she's fine.
She's fantastic in Splitsville, but I had the same thought as you. Like, it just feels like her going into her bag of tricks of, like, the deadpan, not caring, but she does actually care. You kind of give a lot of the same performances, which there are a lot of actors that do the same thing, like Dwayne Johnson or Ryan Reynolds, and people are like, it's just Ryan Reynolds doing this. And it's like, I get that, but, I'm still waiting to see Dakota Johnson really wow me. There are some movies where I'm like, you're good in this, but I haven't been like blown away by her quite yet. And when I saw The Materialist, that's what I thought this movie might give me, and it didn't necessarily, which kind of was a disappointing aspect to it.
Yeah, it's a fine watch though. I think it's like an interesting enough time. Maybe not quite what you expect though.
Yeah, and I think the thing that sets it up for disappointment the most is just who's attached to it with Celine Song just coming off of Past Lives, which is just a haymaker of a movie. And then you go into this, which is kind of like, it's formulaic, but then it's not, but then it is. So it's kind of an off-putting second feature from him, or from her, and I really was expecting a little bit more from it, but also the things that were big swings in Materialists, like that opening and that alien, like the bookmark caveman Neanderthal scenes. I was like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, don't do this. Like, I know what you're doing. Stop doing it. But I'm happy that you saw it, because I think it is like still a decent enough movie. And there's some interchanges and exchanges between like Pedro Pascal and Dakota Johnson in that like kitchen when they're like kind of unpacking part of like why this might not work. I was like, wow, I like the way a lot of this is handled. It also looks great, like visually. So Materialist, it's a pretty decent watch through. I caught up on a couple of different horror movies. One that was a rewatch. This film here was a first-time watch, but also from this year, which was Bone Lake. I've heard a lot of great things. This is directed by Mercedes Bryce Morgan, who directed a smaller film, I believe, Fixation, before this, which Bone Lake is not a big movie. It's a smaller film as well. And it's a film about a couple's vacation at a secluded estate, like an Airbnb, but they got the biggest Airbnb of all Airbnbs, and then they found out when they go there that they also potentially are double booked with another couple. So it's like, do we fold on this big weekend that we're going to have a good time out here and give this other couple the house, or do we just make amends with this couple and agree to share the space, which they end up doing. And this is a movie that's it's a horror movie. It's supposed to be kind of really sex forward and seductive, and a lot of the conversation around this film has been like, oh yeah, this is like the hot steamy horror film of the year. And it has notes of that, and there's some really aggressive shots, at least in the opening. I'd say like 15 seconds where a man gets a bow and arrow through both testicles, and I was like, wow, I saw that. Yeah, a woman made this. She did that. I get this. Okay, that's fine. Stomach hurts. But I was really excited to see this because I've heard great things. I thought this movie was so predictable, and the characters, this is kind of a formulaic thing of the horror genre, but the characters are so exquisitely stupid, and they just continuously fumble the bag and consistently lead to this movie continuing to happen. It's very repetitive. Like, a weird thing will happen, people will point fingers or ask questions, and then it'll get laughed off, and then they'll be like, oh yeah, everything's okay. And it's like, no, maybe leave. Maybe don't be here for that. Maybe this is going wrong. And there's a lot of moments in this movie where I was like, just leave. You don't need to be here. Also, it feels like at times a 13-year-old wrote this with what they view as being sexy and in your face, and it just felt a bit aggressive in a immature way. Not only that, it's not scary, which I'm trying to not make that as like a massive critique of horror movies, because I don't find a lot of things scary in my like early adulthood, at least yet. Who knows? But in Bone Lake, nothing really scared me. It was predictable. It was kind of formulaic. Yeah, you get some like sexiness, but it's not like nothing steamy. It's just kind of like a shrug. Okay, there's a boob. Okay, sweet. Oh man, like
Too good for boobs now.
I'm too good for boobs. But like it didn't add up to much. And then there's a couple of reveals. One like this and Keeper kind of had the same format of like an hour and change into Bone Lake. I was like, I know where this is going. And then we get a big expository scene where something is explained, and I'm like, all right, now I know where the last 20 minutes of this is going, and then the movie will end. And that's what happened. And I was just like, okay, like fine, whatever. So not a massive recommendation for me. I really didn't care much for this movie. I would be eager to see what you have to say about it because, I don't know, I like Materialists you and I agree on, but Keeper, you and I are kind of on different sides of. So I'd be interested to see what you have to say. I also went back, still in like my horror movie kick. I rewatched Evil Dead 2 from 1987, directed obviously by Sam Raimi. And this is, I feel like growing up, I'd always Google like what sequel is better than the original, and Evil Dead 2 would often come up. And then when I watched them in like middle school, I didn't really care much for Evil Dead 2. This is only the second time I've seen this movie, and I rewatched it this past week, and I fucking loved it. And I'm like, this is quintessential what I expect from Evil Dead at this point. Like, if I'm watching an Evil Dead movie, it gets compared to Evil Dead 2. It has the campy, it has the horror, it has that Sam Raimi flavor, and it just works so well. Army of Darkness goes more into the comedy. The more modern movies, which I love, they're really great horror movies, and they're really great kind of body horror films. The Evil Dead by Fede Alvarez, and then Evil Dead Rise by, I believe, Lee Cronin. Those movies I both really like, but quintessential Evil Dead, that weird offbeat flavor, that is Sam Raimi to a T, especially in Evil Dead 2. I loved it. I love the practical effects. It works so well. So if you haven't seen it, it's worth your time. Check it out. It's kind of a horror classic. It's kind of a cult classic too, but it's a great movie, so I definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't.
That's my favorite Evil Dead movie. I think you capture it perfectly. Yeah. It's the perfect blend of everything you want. Coming up this week, we have one big movie coming out, which is Wicked for Good. Very highly anticipated sequel to a movie that is an adaptation of a play, that's an adaptation of a book, that's an adaptation of a movie.
Great.
All of that.
A lot of adaptation.
There it is. So, obviously the sequel to last year's Wicked, where we have Elphaba and Glinda exploring more of their relationship, and is the adaptation of the two-part play, the Broadway musical. And I am very excited for this. We've both been excited for a while. You know, I've talked about it a lot last year, especially where I wasn't looking forward to Wicked that much.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be fine, whatever, and ended up really loving it. It was on both of our top 10s of last year. And it's again coming from John M. Chu, the director of Now You See Me Too, and
that is his like masterpiece.
That's his crown jewel, along with G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Yes.
Crazy Rich Asians doesn't come close to that.
Yeah. Or In the Heights, yeah.
No, that doesn't touch it. But I'm very excited for this. I mean, I don't really know a lot of what happens in the second part. I know some of what happens to characters and where they go. It's sort of hard to avoid that after a year, but I still am really excited to see how it ties into the Wizard of Oz, if, you know, the extent of it, I should say. And, I mean, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, as weird as their press tours are, they're very good in this movie, in Wicked, and they look great here. I'm excited to hear the songs, obviously. I know there's one new song that is a part of this movie, and I'm sure that will be at the Oscars in some capacity.
Yeah.
So it looks like a lot of fun. I'm excited to see where this story goes. And then a couple other movies we have this week are Rental Family, which is starring Brendan Fraser, who is an actor that gets a job in Tokyo working for a rental family agency. And he's kind of playing stand-in roles for strangers, kind of an emotional journey for him there. I've heard some good things, just a feel-good movie. I've kind of heard that this one is.
I'm going to try and see that this week, too.
Yeah, it looks kind of fun. I may not catch it this week just with how much stuff is coming out, but for sure I will watch this movie. He's getting some buzz for Best Actor, maybe. The other one that's coming out, which I feel like came out of nowhere, kind of, was...
Surprised that we're getting a sequel to it?
Yeah, Sisu Road to Revenge, which I really like Sisu from, 2 years ago, I think it was.
We went and saw that. Was that on my birthday that we saw Sisu?
I think it was, around our birthdays, a couple of years ago. And just a fun action movie, that original one is. It's just this fucking... Where is it, in Europe? Or some Russia? Or
I couldn't tell you.
Germany? Or
I could look it up, but I don't know.
Europe. Some fucking Europe, World War II bullshit. Stephen Lang's in this one now.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, that's cool. I actually may try and see it this week, and just the kind of fun, brutal action. It was teased as a sort of John Wick type thing, which in part, I guess, with some of the action, but it's more of that kind of wartime action that you would expect. So I like the first one. I feel like this one will be a nice little combo piece with that.
Yeah, I'm excited for all three of these releases. I don't know if I'm going to catch Road to Revenge, Sisu Road to Revenge in theaters just because of everything else that's in theaters, but I have fond memories of seeing that first one in theaters with you, so I'm like, I should maybe go check this one out. Like, I'm sure it's going to be a good time similar to that first one. Moving into a physical media roundup, I didn't purchase really anything much this week, but Corey, what kind of Blu-ray 4K releases are we looking at?
This is a quiet week. Last week was a lot of shit coming out. This week, Splitsville. You mentioned that before.
Yeah, great Dakota Johnson performance. Very funny. Very great rom-com. It's the Crazy Stupid Love of like the 2020s. I love Crazy Stupid Love. This is the best like relationship romance comedy that you could find, and not a lot of people saw it, so I definitely recommend checking it out, especially if it goes to streaming or if it's ever out on Blu-ray near you. If you're still a physical media collector, check it out. It's a great time.
I'm gonna try and either buy it or catch it on whatever streaming service it comes out on for sure. And then just a couple of older titles coming out of Africa. It's coming out on 4K, and then Casino, which I think is great, and I think in a lot of ways just as good as Goodfellas.
Just as good.
I wouldn't say overall, but I think in most of what it does, I think it's just as good.
Yeah, and the performances are great. I mean, there's a lot of carryover between the two, but it's both. I saw both of those movies back to back, and I didn't like Goodfellas the first time I saw it, and I really liked Casino. So I was like, "What's wrong with me?" And then I watched Goodfellas a couple more times. I'm like, "Actually, no, this is awesome." Yeah. So I'm probably gonna be buying Splitsville though on Blu-ray. I doubt there's a 4K of it because it's such a small release. But moving into movie news, we did have a fuck ton of trailers this past week. So looking at trailer roundup, we have Toy Story 5, Super Mario Galaxy, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, Fallout Season 2, which I know you're probably really actively awaiting and excited for, Wake Up Dead Man, and Devil Wears Prada 2. We got a small tease of that. Of these trailers, the one that stood out to me the most was the Wake Up Dead Man. We get more of kind of that story of Benoit Blanc trying to figure out something. What happened to Josh Brolin? I don't know, but the cast is great, which you can say about all the Knives Out movies, so I'm super excited about that. I bought my tickets already because I know it comes out, I think, Wednesday the 26th or Thursday. It's Thanksgiving weekend for limited release in theaters, so I bought my Tuesday showings of those, so I can't wait to go see that movie. Corey, what big trailer of this week are you most kind of thrown by or excited about?
Yeah, I mean, a few of them were just the teasers. Toy Story 5 is like, all right, there's a tablet here. Which, we kind of knew that already. Yeah. Devil Wears Prada 2, they're just,
walking into an elevator.
Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway in an elevaler. Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, I'm pretty excited for. Gore Verbinski's directing it. Sam Rockwell's in it. Like he comes from the future, and he's kind of doing something. I don't know. I don't know much about it, really, besides this trailer. Kind of excited for that one. I did not watch Wake Up Dead Man. Fallout Season 2, I am very excited for. I love that first season. And then Super Mario Galaxy was an interesting trailer that they released because it was like the first half of it was just like mini Bowser painting. Yeah. And then it kind of gets into the Galaxy stuff, but they spend the half of it not doing like Galaxy stuff.
Benny Safdie just painting photos.
I was like, okay, that's fine. But once they get to like the Super Mario Galaxy, I haven't played that game or any of that version of it, but it seems like a great concept to just translate for a movie, especially how much we both like that first one. Yeah. We get Brie Larson coming in as Rosalina, as one of the voice casts. So, yeah, it could be a lot of fun. Excited for most of those projects. Into some DC news, we have a few different TV shows coming up here. One is called DC Crime, which is a true crime style docuseries hosted by Jimmy Olsen, the ladies' man from Superman, played by Skylar Gisondo. And it's the first season, at least, is going to center on Gorilla Grodd, who he's gotten mentioned in a few projects before, finally coming to the small screen, I guess, in this show. And it's going to be created by Tony Ascenda and Dan Peralt, who did American Vandals, and obviously James Gunn and Peter Safran are involved. I don't know. I don't like this. I think this is going to have a lot of the Daily Planet people in there too. They've kind of teased. This feels a little bit like making mistakes that the MCU did in its later phases, where it's like, all right, well, all the side characters need their own show on HBO now, so you guys want this, right? It's like,
don't need that.
I don't really need that. The other one I'm a bit more curious about is a V for Vendetta show. Pete Jackson is going to write it, and again, James Gunn and Peter Safran are executive producing. And it's kind of in early development now. I really like V for Vendetta, the movie.
Yeah.
I think that is very underrated in terms of, like, I don't even know if a lot of people know it's a comic book graphic novel, really.
Yeah.
But it's a really good one. I'm curious to see where they go with it. We don't really have any casting news, or even if it's going to be a sort of remake or continuation or whatever it's going to be. So I'm more curious about that than the Jimmy Olsen show.
Yeah, I'm stoked for the V for Vendetta TV series. I hope it's like a limited series or a short run show, just because I read that graphic novel. There's a lot of shit in that, which doesn't really fully bleed over into the movie that we got released in like the early 2000s, Natalie Portman and Hugo Weaving. Love that movie, but there's still a lot else that could be unpacked within the show. So I think that that's probably a really good format for this adaptation of the Alan Moore comic. So I'm really excited to see that. We got the Dungeons and Dragons filmmakers, which I love that movie, but the filmmakers behind it, Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly, will be writing and producing and also directing a new standalone Star Trek movie, aiming to revive the franchise. We did, I think, just last week talk about them kind of snuffing out and ending the Kelvin timeline Star Trek movies. Now we're getting this new attempt at a big Star Trek film. The film will be unrelated to the past films or any of the other series, and will feature an entirely new cast and story. I can't wait. It feels like it's been so long since we've gotten a Star Trek movie in theaters. I mean, Star Trek Beyond, I think, was like 2016 or 17. So, and I really like that movie, but I like this creative team. I'm not the biggest like Star Trek head, so I'm hoping that they can kind of capture what makes those audiences very happy, but also kind of, I only have really seen a lot of the Kelvin stuff, and I've seen Wrath of Khan, obviously, and I love that movie, but I'm not the biggest like Trekkie, so I hope that they can kind of better balance out and make a good, like, appeasing picture for every type of Star Trek fan, which I think they might be able to do it after seeing Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm. They also did Game Night, which we mentioned a couple weeks ago. That is a great movie. So I'm excited to see this team tackle it. I'll kind of echo what I said last week, where I'm sad we didn't get more movies with Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, all of that crew, because I thought they were really good. And I feel like the time is kind of past now, unfortunately. Like, in the last, 5 or so years, I think we could have got one, maybe two more.
Yeah, they talked about it for fucking the entire time.
I would have loved at least just one more movie, but, still excited to see where this goes. I will, kind of like you, I've seen the first, 3 or 4 original Star Trek movies. I haven't seen a lot of the other ones, and then the new 3, obviously. So, excited to kind of catch up on those as this new one's coming about. In more sci-fi news, we have a Season 2 renewal for Alien Earth, which we reviewed that whole season here. Really liked the beginning of it. The back half was a little... didn't quite stick the landing, but Noah Hawley has signed a new deal with FX and Disney, and Season 2 is going to start filming in 2026, and I'm excited because I think it left off in a way we kind of talked about where you could do a Season 2, you could leave it at the kind of where it left off, but I think there maybe is hopefully 1 or 2 more seasons. Yeah. I don't know that this needs to be a long-running Alien show. Mm-hmm. I think a 2 or 3 season arc could be fine. Hopefully they kind of improve on some of the things that didn't quite work in the back half of that first season.
The way you described it is 100% in line with how I described Severance. So I'm hoping that it is a 2 to 3 season run. We'll see. But I am excited that it got greenlit. I'm also not surprised, but I'm excited to see where these characters go. Something that excited my wife probably more so than it excited me, but Sabrina Carpenter was announced to be starring in and producing a new live-action Alice in Wonderland musical for Universal. You got to capture that wicked hype, so why not do Alice in Wonderland? Lorene Scafaria, who was behind Hustlers with Jennifer Lopez, which was a great movie, will write and direct with Wicked producer Mark Platt and Alloy Entertainment also aboard. Carpenter reportedly brought the passion project to the studio with her own concept and lookbook, so it's kind of cool to see a creative being really jazzed about something and wanting to make it come to fruition, so I'm excited by that. If someone who my wife loves and I appreciate enough is that passionate about something, I'm hoping that it turns out to be something really good. So I'm somewhat optimistic and excited about this as well.
I don't know, I don't listen to Sabrina Carpenter a lot. I know some of her stuff, I guess, but just picturing her as Alice. That's works. A good choice. Yeah, I think that works. She can sing. Obviously she's been an actor on Disney Channel and a lot of other movies too. So I don't hate that news, actually. I think that's fine. Another little piece of news is that Ryan Coogler's next movie following Sinners is going to be Black Panther 3. I know a while back we mentioned that Denzel Washington was rumored to be in the movie. Not sure what role he's going to have yet. But I actually do like Wakanda Forever a good bit. I think that's a little bit slept on in terms of all the hate that MCU gets these days. It's like, that's actually really, for the most part, pretty good. The fucking Blue Angel suits.
Yeah,
we don't need to bring that back.
The Dora Milaje, whatever they ended up being, I hated that aspect to it. I don't need everyone to have an Iron Man suit, so we could skip that. But I think Wakanda Forever is like a pretty good entry into the later phases of the MCU that does get slept on. I'm a little disappointed that we're not getting something else. Not necessarily in the Sinners world, but something else like from Ryan Coogler, a creative property. I'm like, I kind of want to dive into more wild shit that you could do because I love Sinners, but not surprised that he's coming back to Black Panther 3. And I think I'd be upset if it was someone else taking over the Black Panther franchise and not him. So it works for me. The last bit of news that we want to get into actually happened over this past weekend as well. Tom Cruise received an honorary Oscar, star of Top Gun Maverick. Basically every big action franchise, action film. Night and Day as well. Not a bad movie.
Valkyrie?
Okay, you just want to keep naming ones? He was given an honorary Academy Award at the annual Governor's Awards this past weekend, which are designed to kind of reward lifetime achievement, at least within the industry. And there's an excerpt from his speech that really spoke to me. I got to watch his speech earlier this morning, and because I completely spaced on the Governor Awards happening. But he said that the cinema, it takes me around the world. It helps me to appreciate and respect differences. It shows me also our shared humanity, how alike we are in so many ways. And no matter where we come from in that theater, we laugh together, we feel together, we hope together, and that is the power of this art form. And that is why it matters. That is why it matters to me. So making films is not what I do, it is who I am. And I was just... He had a pretty good lengthy speech, and it covered a lot of great things. It looks back at also people that he was graced to share the screen with or work with in his past projects, and he gave them their flowers and acknowledged, like, hey, I take you with me into everything I do. And I think this was one of my favorite acceptance speeches that I've ever seen, just because it was just a love letter to filmmaking and to it as an art form. And it's something that I feel like we're kind of getting away from, especially with all the streaming and stuff. So it's... Especially as Tom Cruise has been a massive champion of theater going and the theatrical experience. So it's a well-deserved Oscar. It's crazy that it's his first Oscar. He's given great performances before, but to acknowledge everything he's done for the film industry, especially as of late, I think it's well earned and well deserved, and it was a great acceptance speech. And I love Tom Cruise. I'm a massive fan of his work, so this was one of the highlights of my past week, was seeing this.
I think people forget how good of an actor Tom Cruise is. I think partly because he is in a lot of action franchises where you don't necessarily need to carry the bulk of an in-depth performance. But also, I think just the personal life stuff of the Scientology. People are like, oh, Tom Cruise is so weird. He's so weird in interviews. He's just the Katie Holmes, the Nicole Kidman, all that stuff. But I think, I don't know, in recent years, it feels like he's kind of normaled out, maybe.
Mellowed a little bit.
Yeah. But he has such a love for movies and for, obviously, practical stunts. It's great to see him at any, like, premiere for a movie like The Running Man he was at, or even for Barbenheimer, where he's just, like, at the theater with his popcorn, just showing the ticket with the cast and crew, and they're like, yeah, you can be in our pictures. Like, that's fine. He's just, like you said, such a champion for going to the theater for a true theatrical experience. And, I hope people continue to carry on that legacy. Because he really does care about it. And it's great to see an actor just kind of be so genuine about that.
Mm-hmm. Can't agree more. I love Tom Cruise, especially love his words. But with all that said, thanks for joining us for another episode of Slate Night, the Film Fan Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more in-depth movie reviews and movie news. And don't forget to subscribe to the audio, to the YouTube, to whatever you want, however you listen. If you listen, we appreciate you. In film, it's not just about what's on screen. It's also about who's next to you in the theater.
From Mason and I at Slate Night, that's a wrap.